You may be seated.
Hello. Welcome to Temple Emmanuel. My name is Amy Epstein, and I am the president of Temple. I'm incredibly grateful that our community is able to come together in person for this year's Yom HaShoah commemoration. What we do here in our Greensboro community is unique in that we alternate programming between Beth David Synagogue and Temple Emmanuel on these important yamim, Yom HaShoah, Yom HaZikaron, and Yom HaAtzmaut and Shavuot. With our partnership with the Greensboro Federation, we are able to share our facilities, stories, and experiences is to always remember the history our people have lived and died through. These past 2 years with COVID have been difficult for many of us. Isolation, illness, longing to see family, many experiences similar to that of the millions of people that lived during the years of the Holocaust, and more recently through the start of Russia's invasion of Ukraine. We have always said never again, and yet I know that many of us feel connected to this war like no other time in our lives. With the rise of anti-Semitism on college campuses, across our country and around the world, we need to continue to share the stories and the history that we have sadly come to know. Thank you for being here tonight, for telling your stories to your families and loved ones, and for committing to never forget.
Good evening. My name is Marilyn Chandler. I'm Executive Director of the Greensboro Jewish Federation. And on behalf of the Federation, thank you to Temple Emmanuel for hosting and to Beth David Synagogue for co-hosting this evening's annual community commemoration to remember the Holocaust. The Federation is proud to be a partner with our congregations, the North Carolina Council on the Holocaust, public schools, and universities in supporting Holocaust education, including the March of the Living for students and teachers. I have seen the ravine where the Babi Yar massacre occurred. I have accompanied our Belzi, Moldova camp delegation and viewed with my own eyes the mass graves in Transnistria, a small territory sitting between the border of Moldova and Ukraine. It is not only overseas where discrimination and persecution occurs. When individuals dropped flyers on our driveways last December, we were there as a community to call those actions out as anti-Semitic in nature. When professors in the UNC system denigrated Israel, we were there as a community to call this out too. When we asked you, our community, to support the innocent Ukrainian women and children who sought refuge in neighboring countries, you responded generously with funds, clothing, and visits by several of our Jewish communal leaders. The strength of a community is viewed through the lens of how we respond in times of crisis, how we come together to remember those who perished, and also how we prevent such tragedies through education and experiences from occurring in the future. Thank you to our partners. Thank you to all of you in coming together tonight to honor the memory of those murdered in the Holocaust.
Please join with me responsively. We have gathered to remember with reverence and love the 6 million of our brothers and sisters who were murdered at the hands of Hitler.
They lie and rest in nameless graves. Their resting place, far off forests and abandoned fields, are now lost to the eyes of their loving families. Despite this, they must not be forgotten.
We shall remember them in their pain and in their agony.
We shall remember them as we would remember our own brothers and sisters. Had we lived with them in Europe, we would have died with them at Auschwitz and Buchenwald, Bergen-Belsen and Babi Yar, at Telmo and Treblinka.
We remember them because the world would like to forget them, to forget how they cried for help and how their cries were ignored.
How they tried to escape, and how the nations would not give them refuge.
How they died in the camps and how the nations ignored them.
We must not be forgotten.
But memorial lamps are not enough. What can possibly be enough? 6 million of my brothers were murdered, mothers and grandmothers, fathers and grandfathers, and children. Oh, so many children. They have died, but they must live. They must remain alive in our hearts, share room in our souls, breathe with our lungs, sing with our voices, and dance with our legs. Though they have disappeared off the face of the earth, we must live with them every day. Where all the heavens are made of parchment, and every blade of grass a pen, where all the seas do contain ink, and every inhabitant of the earth a writer, there still would not be sufficient words.
לעולם, החול והים, רישרו של המים, ברק השמיים, תפילת האדם, החול והים, רישרו של המים, ברק השמיים, תפילת האדם. O Lord, my God, I pray that these things never end. The sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the heart, the sand and the sea, the rush of the waters, the crash of the heavens, the prayer of the hearts.
Friends, the Jewish tradition teaches us that in times of sorrow, at moments that we need healing, being with others removes a portion of the pain. And so thank you so much for being here this evening. Whether you're here in person or whether you're watching the digital stream of this gathering, we're here together from many walks of life. We're very grateful for those who are here who serve the Jewish community and those who serve our community in general. We're very grateful for the partnership that each year and each time we gather together as a community urges us to continue on. To our friends at the Greensboro Jewish Federation, the Beth David Synagogue, and to this entire blessed and holy community. Friends, I have the distinct honor this evening of introducing to you Natasha Koblieva, who will be speaking with us. You will hear her personal story, which is at the center of this year's solemn marking of Yom HaShoah v'Hagvura, this day in which we remember those taken from us during the years of the Holocaust and those who fought back. Natasha's story takes place on three levels: her family's experience during the Shoah, her own perspective as a child of survivors, and her reflections on what it means to be from Kyiv, Ukraine. You will want to lean in on every word that she says because of the importance of this subject. You will also want to do so because Natasha is speaking very courageously, in my opinion, from her heart. And if you know Natasha, if you know Sergei, if you know their son Oleg and his family who now live in the Triangle area here in North Carolina, you know that they always speak from their heart. They are part of the blessed fabric and narrative that make our city and this community so very special. Many know Natasha. She works on the administrative team here at Temple Emmanuel. She is so generous to speak tonight, even though public speaking is not in her line of work. And it's also important to know that Natasha did not pick up English as a language of daily interaction until she was well into adulthood. And I will say this, her English is impeccable. Yet there may be moments when you feel that you did not fully catch what she said. And that's okay. Don't dismay. A copy of her words will be available to all as we leave the service this evening. I encourage you to take them. And we will also make them available digitally for those online who wish to access them. So how might we welcome someone to speak to us on such an occasion? Applause doesn't fit. But if we take our hands and we put them together to make a heart, maybe that's the way that we can show a sign of gratitude for the openness of tonight's presenter, Natasha Koblayeva.
I'm not a crying type of person. Still, I cried in 1995 as I stood at the Western Wall on a beautiful sunlit Jerusalem day. I recognized how very privileged I was to stand in the holy place, in my Jewish Holy Land. I cried again in September 1998 as our plane took off for the United States, as I stared through the blurry airplane window. Far below me was Kiev, my beloved hometown, the place where I was born and spent the first 40 years of my life. I knew that living behind everything and everybody was not going to be easy. But I didn't realize quite how hard it would be. Still, my trepidation was tempered by excitement. I was realizing my grandmother's dream. I was coming to America. What does your mind conjure up when I say the word Ukraine? Do you think of it as a place that your ancestors fled because of pogroms and religious persecution? Is it a place that you have visited recently so you can trace your family history? Unless you have been living under a rock, you probably think of the current catastrophe in Ukraine, the atrocities in Bucha, tens of millions of refugees fleeing from Western Europe, the destruction of Mariupol, maybe even a prospect of nuclear war with Russia. The daily barrage of news is relentless and terrifying. Ukraine's history and the history of Ashkenazi Jews are inseparable. The word pogrom originated in Ukraine, is Yiddish word. From 1835 to Russia's February 1917 revolution, Kiev was the center of pogroms. In pogrom of 1905, 100 Jews were killed and several hundred injured after Russian authorities falsely accused Menahem Mendel Beilis of the ritual murder of Christian boy in Kiev. That was infamous Beilis affair. In 1920, Bolsheviks conquered Ukraine and incorporated it in the new established Soviet Union in 1922. Many Yiddish writers and poets lived and worked in Kiev during the 1920s and 1930s. There were several Yiddish periodicals, 3 Jewish theaters, and many Jewish schools and clubs. In the mid-30s, the Soviet Union decided to promote the domination of Russian culture and the suppression of all others. So most Jewish organizations and institutions were closed. Many scholars who worked in this organization and institution were imprisoned, with some were executed. During the Second World War, Kiev was under Nazi occupation for over 2 years. Many Jews who remained in the city were massacred by the Nazis in the Babi Yar ravine over 2-day periods in September 1941. The 33,771 human beings who was massacred there were murdered because they were Jews, in the same plain campaign of extermination that spanned the entire continent. An estimated 2 million of the 6 million Jews murdered in the Holocaust were Soviet Jews, who faced what Western scholars call the Holocaust by bullets. The version of the Holocaust carried out by Nazis in the Soviet Union was mass shooting, not death camps. That was the predominant means of extermination. Nobody in my family had prisoner numbers tattooed on their arm. Nobody died in Nazi labor or death camp. After the war, my paternal grandfather, who served as a military doctor in the Red Army, and his family, who were from war-torn Ukraine, returned to Kyiv to find most of their extended family missing. What happened to them? Some died during the war, others were killed in the Babi Yar. There were rumors that Nazi collaborators were among their neighbors and had helped make it happen. When I think of Ukraine and Kyiv, I remember it as a place where at least 5 generations of my family, including me, were born. It's a place where I went to school, where I fell in love, where my son was born, and where I traveled back several times to visit my grandparents' tomb. It's a place where I still have friends, relatives, and classmates. It's also a place the German Nazi bombed on June 22, 1941, 2 days before my mother's 10th birthday. Instead of having a birthday party, she had to flee the city with her family. In my lifetime, I fled Kyiv twice on my own. Once when I was 27, escaping the radiation from Chernobyl to save my 5-year-old son, and again in 1998, when I finally had the chance to go to the US. As I think about this new war, I cannot help but return to the last one, World War II. Its memories are embedded in my bloodstream. I would like to share with you a few stories as they were recounted to me by my parents. My dad, Ilya Tanklevsky, of blessed memory, recalled. I remember long days in the cattle car of evacuation train headed to Ural. I couldn't wait to get there, somewhere, anywhere. My father was not with us. A military doctor, he was in the Red Army. The cattle car was dark. It was stifling hot during the day and freezing cold at night. The spaces were subdivided into 2 levels, and our seats were up on the 2nd floor. A bucket by the door served as communal toilet. The large cattle doors would only open during official stops at different railroad stations along the way. My biggest fear was that my mom's breast milk would run out. I knew that Mila, my infant sister, born during evacuation, would not survive without it. It was a miracle that she was alive in the first place. Another big worry was to make sure we could make it back into the car during the stops. The train would not wait for anyone. Also, we had to run to the station to boil water and get something to eat using food coupons. One time, the train started moving unexpectedly when my mother and several others from the train car were still outside. I remember a crippling fear that I would never see them again. Luckily, my mother was able to hop on the next train and found us at the next stop. Despite all deprivation of the war and all other challenges and difficulties that life had in store for him, my father's greatest nightmare was this memory, being left behind with a 2-week-old sister and elderly grandparents. My dad's hope was that one day he will find the grave of his grandfather, who died in the Urals from hunger, just 6 months after the family got there, giving all food to his grandkids, and finally put a headstone there. My mom, Raisa, may her memory always be a blessing, wrote. I thought it was thundering when I woke up at 4 o'clock in the morning on that day. I went to the window, but the sky was clear. Someone turned on the radio. It was war. My uncle was able to arrange a truck to take several families. The driver refused to stop for bathroom breaks. He had several large canisters filled with gas and stopped only to refill his tank. We were headed east, first by car, then by train, aiming for Turkmenistan. Our journey was perilous. The trains were very crowded, and we faced constant threat of bombardment by Luftwaffe, the German Air Force. Things didn't get much better after we arrived at our final destination. Spiders and mosquitoes were everywhere. We were not exactly welcome by locals. In 1942, malaria came, and it looked like the end. Everyone was sick. Also, she was terribly ill. Mom had no choice but to continue looking after us. It was at this moment that she wrote a letter to my dad's family in the distant Urals. "Save us," it said. It must have been sheer luck that we survived. You can be as brave and as determined as you like, but malaria does not care. My mom had malaria fever attacks till the rest of her life. There are words by Raisa Bialik-Tanklevskaya, my late mom. The scars from the war never fully healed. My paternal grandmother, a talented pianist, a student of Heinrich Neuhaus, never returned to concert activity. With frostbitten hands, she worked at meat-packing plant during the war, and later just as a music teacher. My maternal grandmother suffered a mini stroke after the news that her 2 sibling sisters and their families died in a Babi Yar, and she almost completely lost her eyesight at the age of 40. I'm happy that I was able to fulfill her dream, to go to America, the only country where she knew I would be safe. My parents also came to the US. They're buried here in our Hebrew cemetery. I still mourn their death, but for the first time, I'm glad they are not longer alive to witness the horror that has befallen their homeland. Not long before his death, my father said the things he wished most were simple: walking in Kiev hand in hand with my mom. My parents always kept a framed photo of Kiev's skyline on their bedside table. It was a reminder of their youth, their love for each other, and their love of Kiev. When I first heard that a missile struck a TV tower close to Babi Yar in Kiev, I thought that was close to my son's school. The second thought was they tried to kill them again. Just across the road from Babi Yar and the now destroyed TV tower, built on the site of the old Jewish cemetery, ruined first by Nazis and later by the Soviets, it's a children's amusement park and railway. My parents refused to take me there. All my girlfriends told me about the park wonder and what delicious ice cream was sold there. I did not understand why my parents, who gladly took me to the theaters, excursion, concert, and fulfilled almost all my whims, came up with endless reservations just not to go there. And just many years later, I realized that this place was built on bones. For me, this war feels immediate, violent, and traumatic in a way I had not anticipated. I came to North Carolina when I was 40. When asked where I was from, I frequently said that I was Russian. Russian is my native language, after all. And the word Ukraine meant little to most Americans. It took too long to explain how one could be Jewish, Ukrainian-born, and Russian-speaking. The war in Ukraine feels both far away and very close. One night, I saw footage of a missile strike in Padil, and it hit me hard. Padil was a place where my great-grandfather owned a house, a place where my grandparents lived right after they got married. I opened Google Maps to check distances between different sites, how close the shelling is to where our friends live. Of course, my feelings are nothing compared to what people in Ukraine are experiencing firsthand. My friends and family members are spending sleepless nights crowded in Kyiv subway stations or hiding in the bathrooms of their apartments. They're watching the night sky light up with explosions. When I call them, they tell me not to worry. We hear the fighting, but it did not hit us directly. Is what Russia is doing in Ukraine a genocide? President Biden thinks it is. One of the major Russian news outlets published an article called "What Russia Should Do with Ukraine." It provides crucial evidence of genocidal intent, linking the action of Russian soldiers in towns like Bucha to a broader aim of exterminating entire national group. Millions of lives in Ukraine are affected, including those of our fellow Jews, as Ukraine is home to one of the largest Jewish populations in Europe. The entire world order is disrupted. May the merciful one fill our hearts with compassion and guide our hands to diminish the immense pain and suffering in Ukraine. May we, one day soon, be privileged to sit together with our brothers and sisters there, Jews and not Jews, in unity and peace. Thank you.
In a moment, we will say a prayer of Yizkor and El Malei Rachamim. Usually, we use these prayers to cherish the memory of our closest relatives, the love, the appreciation we have for them. And as we grow in age, and we hopefully grow in wisdom, our understanding of them in our lives changes and grows. But here we use these prayers in a very different way. Here we are saying them for people for whom most of us are at least a generation away from having possibly known. We can't have loved them, we can't have known them. And we will stand in a moment in horror, pain, and complete bewilderment at what was done to them. Usually, we enter this sanctuary and the sanctuaries of our synagogues, churches, and mosques, and other religions to grasp a piece of understanding of that vast power and beauty that created our universe and that gave us life. But now, we're going to stand and we're going to say these prayers in horror and in pain at a suffering so far beyond comprehension that we can only stand, honor, and try to remember. Please stand. Join with me, please, if you are able. Yizkor Elohim nishmot hakadoshim v'hatorim shnehegu v'shnishchatu v'shnisrafu v'shnitbeu v'shnehegu al kiddush Hashem al yedei hanatziim v'yozrehem. Tihiyena nafshotehem surot b'tzvor hachayim im nishmot Avraham, Yitzchak v'Yaakov, Sarah, Rivka, Rachel v'Leah. V'im sha'ar tzadikim v'tzidkaniyot shebegan Eden v'nomar. Amen. May God remember the souls of the holy and pure ones who were killed, murdered, and slaughtered, burned, drowned, and strangled for the sanctification of the name by the Nazis and their collaborators. May their souls be bound in the bond of life, together with the souls of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, and together with the righteous men and women in the Garden of Eden. Now let us respond. Amen.
El Malei Rachamim, Shochen Bamromim, Hamtzei Menucha Nechona, Tachat Kanafei Hashchina, B'ma'alot Kedoshim Utehorim, Kezoar Harakia Mazirim, Et Nishmot, 6 million Chol Achenu B'nei Yisrael, Anashim Nashim Vetav, Shenehergu Al Yedei Hanatzim, V'Ozrehem, Began Eden Tehem Menuchatam, Ba'al Harachamim, Yastirem Beseter Kenafav, Leholamim, Vitzror Hachayim, v'yanuchu b'shalom al mishkavam, v'nomar Amen. We read together. O God, full of compassion, whose presence is over us, may the souls of the 6 million of our brothers and sisters who fell at the hands of the Nazi murderers and who have gone to their eternal home among the holy and pure, who shine as the lights of heaven, find perfect peace in your sheltering presence. Master of mercy, we beseech you, cover them in the shelter of your wings forever, and bind their souls into the gathering of life. It is the Lord who is their inheritance. May they rest in peace in their place of rest. And let us say, Amen.
We have lived in numberless towns and villages, and in too many of them we have endured cruel suffering. Some we have forgotten, others are sealed in our memory, a wound that does not heal. 100 generations of victims and martyrs, still their blood cries out from the earth. And so many at Dachau, at Buchenwald, at Babi Yar. What can we say? What can we do? How bear the unbearable or accept what life has brought to our people? All who are born must die, but how shall we compare the slow passage of time with the callous slaughter of the innocent, cut off before their time? They lived with faith. Not all, but many. And surely many died with faith in God, in life, in the goodness that even flames cannot destroy. May we find a way to the strength of that faith, that trust, that sure sense that life and soul endure beyond this body's death. They have left their lives to us. Let 1,000,000 prayers and more rise wherever and whenever Jews worship. Let 1,000,000 candles and more glow against the darkness of these unfinished lives. We join our voices together tonight in remembrance. We do so for comfort. We do so for support. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei rabbah. V'alma divrach yiruteh v'yamlich malchuteh. V'chayechon v'yomechon. V'chayeh dechol beit Yisrael. Ba'agalau v'zman kari v'imru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevarach la'alam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yitalev v'yithalal shmei dekudsha brichu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbechata v'nehemata da amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shamaya, v'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. May the source of peace send peace to all who mourn, comfort to all who are bereaved, and may God who causes peace to reign in the high heavens, let peace also be with us, with Israel, with our entire nation here at home, together with all the nations of the world and all humanity, as together we all say, Amen. So friends, in just a few moments, we will conclude what has been a very moving service, and I just want to thank everyone who made this service possible, as well as Natasha for those incredibly moving words. And as you leave this evening, and maybe as we do so somewhat in whispered silence, as we make our way to our next destination, I want us to keep in mind the hope that we have, as well as all those that we remember at this time. I'd like to ask now, for those who are Jewish clergy, for those who are Jewish professionals, and if there's any other clergy in the room, to please also be very much honored
This is a Jewish community declaration, but for those who'd like to join in with us, but for all rabbis and cantors and Jewish professionals, if you'd like to join us on the bema this evening as we make a community declaration together, we'll all step forward at this time. Afterwards, we will turn our attention towards the flag of the State of Israel and sing the Jewish people's song of hope, Hatikva, and then conclude, remembering, always remembering, never forgetting, and standing steadfast with those words, Am Yisrael Chai, that our people shall long endure.
Together, we, the Jewish people of the Triad, North Carolina, have gathered tonight on this anniversary of the end of the days of terror for our people, to remember and to never forget. We realize that we as individuals and as a people must accept the responsibility of remembrance. However, we also realize that remembrance alone is not enough. We must remember, educate, and act to carry on the legacy of Torah to future generations, as well as to spread its message to the present one. We dedicate ourselves to an obligation to eliminate bias, bigotry, and racism, just as we dedicate ourselves to an obligation to pursue justice, compassion, and peace. We commit ourselves to the continued and creative survival of our people here and elsewhere, to the State of Israel, and the task of strengthening our community and its institutions. Am Yisrael Chai.
Thank you again to everybody for gathering together this evening. This concludes our ceremony and our service. Now go forth in peace to life.